Well guys, it looks like the Zelda producer Aonuma is actually hinting at something that could be coming soon for us Zelda fans. Now, this isn't the first time this has ever happened, and I'm going to go into a deep, detailed dive as to what I mean by that, but thankfully, this information was found by Nintendo Prime, so definitely go check out their channel. They have more discussions and information on this, but I want to kind of dive into this myself and talk about what I think about this. But yes, for a while now, Aonuma has been kind of teasing what upcoming project that he's been working on, and has even told us that he has definitely teased it with some of the ways that he said things. And before I dive into what he teased now, let me take you back through the past to some things that he's actually done. In 2016, Aonuma was actually asked what future projects that he was working on, past, I guess, Breath of the Wild at the time, and Aonuma actually stated, actually, Nintendo has been telling me to create a new IP, but then they're also telling me to make more Zelda games. I can't really share much, I'm not sure I'm allowed to say anything, but I really like the idea of a game where I can live as a thief. That's all I'll say. And then in 2019, 3 years later, we find out that he was referencing Link's Awakening, where in that game you can actually be a thief and go into the shops and actually steal items and just completely walk out with them. There's a punishment for that, but you can do it. And yeah, he's actually even come out and admitted that that was his hint and that he was alluding to Link's Awakening, which is super cool. I kind of like this little, hints that Aonuma can give out and get us, kind of speculating what he's working on next. But this clearly was not the first time he's done something like this. Now, this one I actually remember very well. It was back in 2018, at the end of a Zelda orchestra concert, he actually came out on stage and said something very interesting. Quote, "I know what you were thinking." Aonuma supposedly remarked, "Skyward Sword for Switch, right?" And then just left everybody hanging and walked off the stage. So yeah, I mean, I think everyone knew that something was odd about that announcement, about that little, hint, and obviously it would come to actually happen. If you guys know me, it is 100% my favorite Zelda game of all time. I just absolutely love the story. I'm just extremely nostalgic for it because, believe it or not, it's one of my first home console experiences with Zelda that I've ever had, where I played all the other games on like an emulator on my phone. So this one just meant a little bit more than any other Zelda game to me. So I was so happy to actually see that hint actually be a real hint. And I remember at the time thinking, there's no way he just literally made it that obvious, right? Well, yeah, he did. And I guess there's some type of agreement where Aonuma is allowed to do this with Zelda games. So that's cool, I guess. You might be thinking this is only for remakes or remasters of the sort, and actually, no, because it happened again recently. In another interview at the end of last year in 2023, Aonuma states, "Yeah, it is interesting when you think about the name of the series, The Legend of Zelda, but Link is always the main character." Aonuma admitted when asked about the potential for Zelda to be playable in the future. He then goes on to say, "And Link has been the main character, and Zelda has always been involved, and they had relationships and their own rules in each of the games. But it is true that I think there's room for thinking about this type of thing in Zelda's role, and there may be some sort of possibility for something like that in the future." Aonuma, who was speaking through a translator, then interjected in English, maybe. And clearly it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what he was alluding to, because literally the next year, this time it wasn't even 3 years later, the next year, we don't see a remaster or a remake, we see, let alone a brand new 2D Zelda game featuring Zelda. So yeah, it's kind of insane that Aonuma is just straight up telling us what's coming at this point. I mean, his hints aren't even really hints anymore. They're just like, hey, that Zelda game, it could be coming, like, it really could be coming. Wink, 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 nod. Like he's just straight up telling us. It's hilarious. But yeah, so now obviously we have to be very, very keen on everything that Aonuma says, because apparently it's hints. And guess what? He's talking again, and that's why we made this video. Aonuma actually hints on 2 possible games here, and these are things that we've definitely been hearing from in the past. But in one recent interview, Aonuma states, "When I first heard that he would be named Rawl, I thought it was a very natural progression, but I wonder how many people who are currently playing Tears of the Kingdom actually knows the character Rawl." Now this is actually an English translation, so obviously they're talking about Rauru here. And this is really strange. And also, notice the end of that. So he's literally saying, I wonder how many people know about Rauru, and then laughs. And like Nintendo Prime has actually mentioned in his video, there's only 2 times this has actually popped up in the Zelda timeline. In Zelda 2, it was an actual town, but obviously in Ocarina of Time, it was the owl and of course the sage that was watching over Link the entire time. A very important character in that game, and it's very important obviously in Tears of the Kingdom, where it's the name of the first king of Hyrule's history, story, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it's that little laugh at the end also that's pretty interesting. Why would he chuckle and laugh at the end of that? That's kind of strange. But yeah, just keep a note on that laugh. We then move on to another recent interview with Game Informer, where the interviewer actually states, "Thank you both so much for your time. I've heard about how sometimes questions about games can inspire them to be made. So I selfishly want to ask you about a modern Ocarina of Time remake, but I have a feeling I know the answer I'll get." And of course, Aonuma laughs and says, "No comment." And then for our final interview, this comes from IGN themselves, and it's about Majora's Mask. It states, Aonuma is keeping quiet about the potential of a Majora's Mask remake. In a recent interview with IGN, Aonuma laughed when asked if fans might see the game remade soon, purposely leaving his answer open for interpretation. He states, "Please write that I laughed," Aonuma told IGN in response, after indeed laughing. "Don't make it sound like I laughed because I was troubled or inconvenienced or put out. I don't want them to read anything into it, but if you want to say that I laughed, I think that would be a good answer." When pressed about how fans should interpret that, Aonuma simply told us, "It's really up to them. If they want to interpret my laughter as, yeah, we're making it, or no, we're not, I guess that's really up to them." So yeah, I think there's a good chance we could see these games. And let me tell you right now, I think it was just kind of obvious. You know, we already got Wind Waker and Twilight Princess made in HD. We're just waiting for those games to come over to the Switch. So if you go back and look at any other games Nintendo could actually remake, there still are others. Like you have the Oracle of Seasons and Ages games that could probably be in a very similar art style to Link's Awakening and Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. And of course, there's some other older Zelda games they could probably bring back, like Spirit Tracks, Phantom Hourglass, Link Between Worlds, or even A Link to the Past would be really cool. But yeah, this just sounds like the best idea from Nintendo. Two extremely classic games that people just love and still hold up pretty good to this day, but I would just love to see both Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask remade from the ground up. I really hope they don't just give us the 3DS versions like they did with Donkey Kong Country Returns HD and also with Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. I hope these are actually the original versions just made from the ground up. Like, just forget the 3DS versions exist. I really hope so, because I don't know how I'm going to feel if it's just the same 3DS versions, just slightly better looking again. I would love to see just a complete reimagining of what the world would have looked like from Ocarina of Time if it was made today. I also think there's some reasoning for this to be happening as well, because we have like a huge Deku Lego set coming, the Deku Tree actually, which is pretty cool, coming from Ocarina of Time, obviously. And we also have a Zelda movie coming out, which probably is going to take a lot of elements from that classic game of Ocarina of Time, maybe even some from Majora's Mask. So I don't know, I feel like it's just a really good time for something like this. But of course, like always, we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens with Zelda in the future, because whatever this game is, it's probably gonna be coming to the next console, because we are already at the end of the Switch after all, so it would just make sense. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Comment down below what you think about this. Do you think we'll actually be getting Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask remakes? Would you love that, or would you hate that? Definitely let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe before you head out, and like always, I'll see you all on the next one. See ya, guys.